निरञ्जनं नित्यम् अनन्तरूपं भक्तानुकम्पाधृतविग्रहं वै ईशावतारं परमेशमिड्यं तं रामकृष्णं शिरसा नमाम जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयो श्रुत्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः नमः श्रीयतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे
Namaskar.
नमस्कार. So in the last class, we were describing the various duties and responsibilities as has been described in the Mahanirvana Tantra of an householder, and as has been related by Swami Vivekananda in his lecture, Each is Great in His Own Place. So among all those duties and responsibilities, the one of the very important responsibility, duty, which I left out. I think we should just share the screen and go to that exact lines which Swamiji has enunciated in his lecture, and just have a short discussion on it. So he who thinks of another woman besides his wife. Actually, some have commented that Maharaj, you have left it out. I thought, yes, I think that's a very important point which we have left out. If he touches her even with his mind, that man goes to dark hell. He who thinks of another woman besides his wife. So I will relate just one incident in the life of Holy Mother. Sister Nivedita has just arrived in India, and she was getting acquainted with the Indian culture. So it was almost a regular part of his routine that she would be with the mother and her group of women devotees for some time, and that when she used to spend her time with the Holy Mother, she was just like a small girl. That's what Holy Mother used to call her. She used to call her as Cookie. Cookie means a small girl. And that was the relation, very wonderful relation. Now, one day, Holy Mother requested Nivedita that, see, we all have, in all the religions, there are some rituals related to the wedding ceremony. So what's the rituals in the Christianity? Can you just describe it to us? And not only that, as all the women folks were there, so they were quite free among themselves, they requested, why not you enact and show that, that how the wedding ceremony goes on, how the bride and the groom, they will be taking their vows, what vows they take. Can you please describe them? Now, when Nivedita was describing, there was a spill of laughter among the women folk because she was enacting in such a nice way. Now, when she told that special line that when the time comes to take the vows, and when they take the vows that we till our death won't part, we will remain faithful to each other. Others haven't noticed that still that laughter was going on. Holy Mother suddenly became very serious and started saying in Bengali, Punni, Punni. Those words are very holy. Just see, it's a very small an incident where all are just making fun. But Holy Mother immediately caught the perennial values which is universal. In all the religions, you will find that so much importance has been given to the faithfulness. Why? It is especially a very important trait which we have to give a lot of attention in the present age. That this marriage is something very sacred. Why? Because marriage is not just something which speaks of the relation of the two persons. As we were speaking, it is a relationship which speaks of reaching out. The words three actually came from the root which means vistar, to spread out. The one with whose association I will not just be concealing myself from the entire society. Gradually, I will be reaching out. We will have children, and then we will have other relatives. We will move out to the service. So marriage actually speaks of a responsibility towards the society. It's not just a mere expression of passion. So as a human being, we will find in all our fields of life, in all fields of life, a particular human faculty we express, and that makes us human. What? No other animal has the capacity to guide their emotions with the will, with a resolution. They're more impulsive. Whatever their instinct says, they do immediately. There is no question of conscience. But as a human being, you will find before every act, there is a voice within us which is bound to ask whether it is good or whether it is wrong. So emotions, you will find all the emotions as a human being. We have that uniqueness, the capacity based on our conscience to take a particular resolution that I won't give importance to the emotion. It shouldn't get the upper hand. My will should guide the emotion. It happens in all the fields. And we don't know why in the present age, we take it so casual as per the most important relation is concerned. A politician, just because of his passion to be a part of the politics, cannot behave in any way he or she wants. Before he takes a responsibility as a minister, you will find in each and every country, first he has to take a resolution that his passion for politics is well, but it has to be controlled by some resolution. You go to the sports, you will find that the players before the game starts has to take some resolution. This passion for the sports has to be guided by that resolution. Before the Olympics, resolution is there. In any field, the doctor, before entering into the profession, the resolution is there. And that resolution, if they break, we know that the society never in any way is going to just encourage that. There will be a lot of censoring for that. An army, the one who is a soldier, he has his resolution. Everywhere you will find that our emotions are guided by the resolution. And that makes us human, because unless the resolution is there, those emotions can be the cause of our disintegration. And if the resolution is there, if that is taking the upper hand, our emotions are guided by that. Our emotions are not given importance to just run a wreck free. It just goes on in its own way, just gushes down the stream like its own way. No, it has to be streamlined as per my resolution, as per my will. Then only that emotion, instead of disintegrating us, can become a constructive factor, an integrating factor in our life. In all fields, you will find that. The same thing actually is being enunciated in case of marriage. In all the religions, in all the perennial values, if you go to the old values, you will find it is there. Why? Because this integrity is not meant only for some conjugal happiness. It is related to the children. You will find that whenever the question of breakup comes, whatever may be the reason, the most affected is the most affected one are the children. So how selfishly we act, that we sometimes don't think of the future generations. My own likes and dislikes becomes the most important factor. We forget that we are a responsible being. Our responsibilities are something which has to be given priority. If we take the entire scenario as a huge, that's a group activity, is a huge, something is going on as a yajna, and we have to play our part there. Our emotions, everything are good as long as it is guided by those resolutions, which again is dependent on our conscience. So therefore, you will find so much importance has been given, especially in the olden days. We will find where arranged marriage was there. But how wonderful that the bride and groom who were not acquainted with each other, first was the resolution. The first was the resolution, then the life starts, emotion comes later. This resolution, the vows, that gets the first priority importance. Based on that, the emotions gradually come into the picture. So that has its own importance, because in the society, it means our likes and dislikes, it's not that we are totally going to relinquish. It should be there, but let it be guided by dharma. Why? Ultimately, you will find that the real happiness is what? Where in Gita it has been spoken of. The real happiness, the sattvic sukha, which at the beginning may bring some pain because of endeavor, but ultimately ends up in sukha, in happiness. That's the sattvic sukha. But the world, because of their myopic vision, short-sightedness, always gives importance to the immediate happiness. They forget that this immediate happiness may not result in the long-standing happiness, this long-term happiness. In the end, it may really end up in all sorts of complications. So we forget that we don't have the will, the resolution, the capacity to delay our gratifications, and we get established in our will to do the thing which actually entails in real happiness. So that's why we'll find in all the religion that for the going to hell, we need not have to wait till death. Heaven and hell we can create here itself by the way we lead our life. So when they speak that such a person goes to hell, what happens after death we don't know. But we find that such type of things, in the most of the cases, what happens in this life, they find that the life has become hellish. It is just, they have just made their own life hell. In their pursuit for happiness, at last it ends up in something extremely depressing. Sometimes we find that people say that they are happy, but nowadays in the present world, happiness is an advertisement. What you feel, you never say. You just make a show of happiness. Real happiness can never be by not following the dictums of our conscience. It can never be. We can make a show of happiness, but we can really never be happy. In this world, that happiness most of the time has become an advertisement. So let us give importance to what we really feel. And then we will find that all these perennial values have really something to do with our life. It's not that we cannot ignore them. We can ignore them, but as we told, laws are laws. We can never break them. That if someone says that I don't believe in gravitation, so he's not going to fly if he jumps from a 20-story building. That's just because of the fact that he doesn't believe in gravitation. He's going to just crash and die. The same thing happens with all these perennial values. What that is the truth that has been spoken of in the scripture, in the form of do's and don'ts, in the form of commandments, in the forms of vidhis and nishedhas. It has been told. Yes, the choice is ours. We may follow them, we may not follow them, but we cannot avoid the consequence. The consequences are fixed. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say very nicely, if you take chili, you are bound to feel hot. Whether I will take chili or not, that option is with me. The choice is with me. But if I take, the result is inevitable. There I cannot say that I will take chili, but I won't have the hot sensation. No. The choice, before I take the chili, the choice is there with me. Once I take, that this question of choice is no more there. When someone asked Ramakrishna that is there anything called absolute truth? Because in those days, that this was the common idea that all the truths are relative to the human mind. There is nothing called absolute truth. To that, Sri Ramakrishna's reply was this wonderful small just quotation that if you take chili, you are bound to feel hot. So these laws are laws, we cannot break them, but the choice is ours, whether to follow or not. But the result is there waiting for us. It is inevitable. So life is really going to be something like a hedonistic. It is hellish, hedonistic, if we don't follow those dictums. So it was a very important dictum which we left out. We thought we should highlight this in this class. Next, this chapter ended with a story that each is great in his own place. So this is the question which we always have in our mind. Especially we find with those who are living a householder's life. Sometimes they come and they will just say that, Maharaj, how blessed you are. You are leading such a nice life. Somehow you have been saved. So the question comes, is really the sannyasi's life something better than the householder? Some may say just the opposite. The householder's life is better than the sannyasi's. To speak, the famous quotation of Karl Marx, I will start with that before I start the story. That religion is the opium of the masses. So almost the story which we are going to relate, here we find a king is almost is ascribing to this dictum as if, though this king is something who is of much older times, of much older times. It is just a Purana story. But the king somehow has the idea that all these sannyasis are leading just a waste life. So what he did, he put a question to all the so-called renunciates, that you have to come and just tell me certainly that who is greater, a sannyasi, a monk, or a householder? So now one by one, all these renunciates who were there in that country, they were coming as the king has asked them to give the answer, and with proper explanation. It's not just a statement. Give the answer, and that also with proper explanation. So all the renunciates were coming and to the king, and they were trying to relate their opinion. So if they told that the life of the monk is greater than that of the householder, the king will ask why. Now, if they cannot give satisfactory answer, the king will force them to become householders. Because they say that if sannyasi's life is not something better than the householders, then why you are living this type of life? So you have to become a householder. So that was the punishment. And if someone told that's just to save himself from that type of consequence, some other sadhus came and told, no, householder's life is great. So that way he thought that he will be saved from the consequences which other monks have faced. So now again, the king will tell, as you also believe the life of the householder is great, why are you leading this life? So become householder. So in any way, the king was almost forcing them. That was a mode of punishment to become householders. Most probably, he didn't have any faith in the life of a sannyasi, that he thought it is a wastage of energy. Such human beings are of no use to the society. It's better to lead a householder's life. So there was a crisis among all those renunciates, that the king is asking them one by one, if you say that the life of a sannyasi is something greater than the householders, we have to explain. If you cannot explain, he is forcing them to lead a householder's life. And if you say the householder's life is greater, then again he is forcing. Because after all, you believe the householder's life is something better than the life of a sannyasi, and then why you lead that life? So you also become a householder. So now at last, a monk came to the king, and the king asked the same question. And then the reply of this monk was, what's the title of this chapter? That, O king, each is great in his own place. That was his answer. The king told, you have to explain. The sannyasi immediately replied that I cannot give you immediate answer. You have to give me some time. We have to go through some experiences, and the answer will become something obvious. I won't have to even relate to you the answer. It will become obvious. Well, okay, the king agreed. Now, the king, as per the directives, as per the insistence of the sannyasi, the king had to take disguise. And the king and the sannyasi, they left the kingdom and were just moving around some other neighboring kingdom. And in the neighboring kingdom, they saw that this king's daughter, the princess, for her, the Swayamvar Sabha has been arranged. The Swayamvar Sabha is the prince of all other kingdoms, all the kingdoms who are willing to get married, who are interested in getting married to the princess. They all were invited. So the princess will then, in the presence of that huge gathering, will go around. And then as per her choice, she is going to put the garland on one of the prince, and that prince will be accepted as the husband. Then the marriage will be there between the princess and that particular prince. So they were like all the eligible bachelors sitting there, and the princess, she used to have her own benchmark. You know, nowadays when you go to buy a car, so they will ask that, what's your benchmark? Do you want a luxurious car or a car with security? That even if it meets some accident, the one who is sitting there doesn't face any such dire consequence. So is it a secured car or a luxurious car or some car with lot of comforts? So those are the benchmarks. So as per my benchmark, we will be just choosing the car. So here also the princess is to have their own benchmarks, that whether she wants to marry the most handsome prince or the one who is very learned, the one who is wealthy, who is very strong, powerful. So all those benchmarks were there. So for this princess, the benchmark was that she wants to marry the most handsome prince, the most handsome person, man. And now she was going around. And one sannyasi, some other monk, came there just to see what's going on. Now, it's not that he was a part of that Swayamvar Sabha. He just came there to just have a fun. That is another story of Ramakrishna, that once sadhu was moving around the city. Some other sadhu asked that, you are just moving around, where is your luggage? The sadhu replied, I first got a rest house, got a room, I kept my luggage there, locked the room, and then came out for just roaming the city and just see all the landmarks. The story is actually highly indicative. Means after you have realized, after locking, keeping the things and locking means I have realized myself, I am well established in it. Now I can safely move out. I am now free, concern free, because nothing is going to entangle me. I can easily now relate to the world as a mere projection. And I know it's a projection, it's just a fun. It is not in any way going to entangle me. So this Swami was something of that stature. He just came to have a look what's going on without getting involved in it. Now the princess, while going with the garland around, from a distance saw that young monk. He was really handsome. And this princess now started approaching towards that monk and put the garland on him. The monk immediately vehemently opposed. He told, you cannot do that. First of all, I am not a prince. I am here just to witness. I am not a part of this swamber. And he immediately removed the garland. The princess told, but I have chosen. There cannot be any, but what you say, that the difference of my, any question of again choosing. Once I have resolved, I put the garland, it is I'm going to marry you. Now the monk just told it's a nonsense. He threw the garland and just started moving out of the palace. The princess followed her because she was already quite infatuated by the beauty of the monk. She started following her. And now the king in disguise and the other monk who just brought the king, they also followed the princess and the monk. The monk was moving ahead, the princess was running after him. And after quite a distance, after traveling quite a distance, the monk entered a forest. The princess also started following him. And then what happened? The monk was quite acquainted with that forest. He took the path, in the intricate path of the forest, and in no time, the princess lost the way. And now it was almost the dusk, it was almost evening, it was getting dark, and now she was baffled. She couldn't find the monk, neither she can come out because of already the intricate path she has traveled. Now she found it is almost impossible for her to come out of the forest. And now she was wailing and crying, sitting under the tree. The king in disguise and the monk came and consoled her and told her that today now it's almost dark, it's almost impossible to come out of the forest. So why not? We spend the night here under the tree. Tomorrow morning, we assure you, we will take you back to your kingdom, to the palace. So the princess agreed. She was very sad. Now it was dark. They were just sitting under the tree. On the top of the tree, there was a bird with his family. Now the bird thought that immediately thought that we have a guest. There are 3 guests there sitting under the tree, but it's so cold night. They must be shivering. We should arrange for some fire. So the bird immediately brought some twigs and kept it in front of the 3 guests and managed to lit fire. So now he was a bit satisfied. Okay, that my guests will have the warmth, will be a bit cozy. After that, when the nights passed on, now the bird thought, they must be hungry and I have nothing to give them to eat. So at last the thought came, why not I offer myself as food to the remaining guests? So what he did, he suddenly jumped on the fire which was lit in front of them. The princess, the king in disguise, and the monk were just taken aback. Suddenly the bird came so fast and dived on the fire They couldn't stop the bird doing that. And in no turn, it was uh, totally charred to death. Now, the wife of the bird, she thought that the little flesh of my husband will not be sufficient for these three guests. They're so hungry. So her dharma is to follow the husband. She also jumped on the fire. And in no time, the two small ones the birds, they are the two children. They also followed the same course as their parents. Now, these guests could never took that because they were shocked to see that the entire family has jumped into the fire. They, of course, couldn't relish the flesh. They passed the night without taking food. And next day morning, as the king in disguise and the monk assured, they guided the princess out of the forest. And now the monk in disguise has told the king, just see, if you're leading the life of a monk, have that strong power of renunciation as the monk you have seen that in Swayamvar Swabha, the entire kingdom was declared to be his because the king had no son. The daughter whom she marries, the entire kingdom goes to him. So he was going to get the entire kingdom, such a beautiful wife. But nothing could lure him. That's the renunciation. If you have to be a monk, be like that monk. Just now you saw the example in front of you. And if you have to be a householder, you have to reach out, even if it means self-sacrifice. The example of the bird's family. So if you have to be a householder, that always ready to sacrifice your life for the greater good. And if you're a monk, then you should have the tremendous renunciation not to be lured by the sunset pleasures of life. So if you are leading the life to that ideal, then the monk as well as the householder, both are great in their own place. So that's the story which we will find that Swami Vivekananda is relating. It's a story from our Purana. So this is the ultimate thing, whether we are a householder or we are a sannyasi, the main thing is the idea of self-effacement. The monk gets rid of the self by diving within. By diving within, he tries to get rid of the apparent self by getting established in his real conscious self. And the householder, to get rid of that same sense of that punny eye, reaches out. One is diving within, one is moving out in the way of service. So that's why Swami Vivekananda used to say that Tyaga and Seva are the twin ideals, which we should try to inculcate in our life. Renunciation and service. Now, in this story, it is just shown very nicely that what is the duty of a sannyasi, and again, what's the duty of a householder, and how much we are following that. On that depends the greatness. But you know that Swami Vivekananda, just today out of this context, we will just say, if you read the Swami Vivekananda's work, what he did was something very interesting. He almost throughout his all his lectures, you will find constantly was trying to synthesize apparently two opposite ideals. They were apparently two opposite ideals. He was trying to synthesize and make a wonderful jugalbandi, a duet. You know, nowadays, that Eastern music, Western music, you will find the duets. The Do-Dusti music appears to be something totally of different tradition, but they can be synthesized. Similarly, Swamiji is trying to synthesize the apparently opposite these ideals. So First, we will find in his lectures what he's trying to synthesize the Jiva with the Shiva. These two are opposite. Jiva is the one who is bound. Shiva is the one who is liberated, who is never within the bond of ignorance. Is a Shiva. And the Jiva who is in the bondage. How can you synthesize these two? Shiva Jnane, Jiva Sheva. That see the Lord in each and every being. That's the first synthesis we will find there he's doing. How? That if the Lord has become the entire existence, if the Lord has become the entire creation, so though apparently one may appear to be entangled in the world, in the worldly affairs, essentially is the Shiva. Try to recognize the core of the being, core of the being of each and every person, and try to relate as if you're relating to the divine. And then what happens? All your action becomes service. And then another two ideals can get synthesized. What is that? Nishreyasa and Abhyudaya. Very nice. If you go to the Swamiji's work, constantly he's doing that. Nishreyasa means the going for renouncing the world and going for the highest ideal. This Nishesha Rupena Sreya. That is in all ways it is the best. And Abhyudaya means social evolution, social upliftment. So again, these two appears to be opposite. How it is possible to combine these two? By Shiva Jnana, Jiva Shiva. If you can see the Lord in each and every being and reach out to serve them, not just as for the philanthropic activity, just it's as a sense of worship, that the Lord resides in each and every being. By serving, actually I am worshipping the Lord. It is not mere help. Then Abhyudaya and Nishreyasa goes hand in hand. And then what happens? This Tyaga and Seva also goes hand in hand. So, because I have to renounce my petty self to really reach out and serve the human being as divine. So those two ideals you will find in the life of Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda. Constantly they're synthesizing. So as a Swami of Ramakrishna mission, you will find that though they have renounced, but they're extremely involved in all social activities. They're running hospitals, schools, colleges, constantly involved with the society. So this was the new trend which was brought by this Ramakrishna Vivekananda tradition. We won't say it's a new trend, it was there, but it was not emphasized. So that was brought out from the scriptures and it was emphasized that these two has to go hand in hand. Tyaga and Seva. It has to go hand in hand. Why? What's the need of this synthesis? Sri Ramakrishna used to give some wonderful examples. That why synthesize? He used to say, I never like one-sided view. He will sometimes say that I like spicy food. So we know that Ramakrishna was, the food habit was very bland, very bland. But why he's saying that I like spicy food? He used to take very simple food. If you take it literally, it means nothing, but actually he really never liked spicy food. That for him there was a quota of prasadam. Every day the mothers he used to stay in the Kali temple, Mother Bhavatarani's prasad used to come to him. Every day one plate used to come. He never used to take that because he was weak in stomach. For him, Holy Mother used to prepare simple food. But he's saying, I like spicy food. So if you take it literally, it means nothing. You never like spicy food. What it means is that that all the one-sided person are as if taking bland food. Why not synthesize? The spice is there. They synthesize the various ideals. That makes the food spicy. That makes something taste. That it makes it tasty. It makes it delicious. So what is actually indicating? He's saying that why not blend the so-called ideals, all the various ideals? Why? It will accelerate your spiritual progress if you can synthesize. So how? He used to give a wonderful example. He used to give an example of a goldsmith. In the olden days, the goldsmith, for smelting the gold, You need an optimum temperature. When you have lit the fire, you need an optimum temperature to smelt the gold because it has a very high melting point. So what the goldsmith will do, after lighting the fire, you will find with a pipe he's blowing on the fire. He's blowing with a pipe on the fire. On the hand, he has a fan. And with his feet, there's a paddle. With that, he's moving the paddle. So that is again connected to a fan. So all these efforts together enables the fire to reach the optimum temperature in which the gold will be smelted. So this is the example Sri Ramakrishna is giving. So he's saying that God has given you so many faculties. He has given you emotion. He has given you the power to work. You can work, you have your emotions, love, you have your intellect, you have your power to concentrate. Why be one-sided? Blend them all. Just like the goldsmith, building all his faculties, using all his faculties, use all the faculties. And then what happens? Your spiritual journey becomes accelerated. Don't be one-sided. So if you can blend all your faculties, God has given you those faculties, why not use them? All those faculties you use so that you can reach your goal very quick, because your spiritual journey gets accelerated. And then he used to say very nice, another story, very interesting. This Ramakrishna's metaphors, analogies are wonderful. He used to say that human being is just like a flute. It's just like a flute. The flute has many holes. If you close all the holes and keep one hole open and just go on blowing that flute, what you get is a noise. It's not a music. It's just a noise. You must know the art of using your fingers over all those holes so that all of the holes are used. Then you get the wonderful music. Sri Ramakrishna is saying that as a human being is like a flute. All those holes are the various faculties. If you close all and keep only one faculty open, what you get is a noise out of life. You're just one-sided person. You have just one-sided, and what comes out of your life is just a noise. If you can use all those faculties, then the wonderful music will come out of it. But for that, again, that self-effacement is required. Just now, few days, just day after tomorrow, we are going to have Janmashtami, the Krishna's birthday celebration. So today's class, we will end with another story. That who is going to play that flute? Unless self-effacement is there, the God is, after all, it is the Lord who is the innermost soul of each and every being. It is He who has to play this flute called this psychophysical existence. How He can play the flute? I will just relate another anecdote in the life of Krishna. Once Radha was with Krishna and she was just relating her feelings to Krishna. She told, just see, oh Krishna, your flute is so fortunate. It is always tagged, it is always with you. You are never without it. The flute is always with you. But see, for us, our condition is so pitiable. We are in union with you for such short time. And most of the time, we have to be parted. We have to be away. That viraha, that pain of separation, we have to experience so much in life. We cannot be that fortunate just like a flute who is always with you. Krishna, in reply, brought out the flute and showed it to Radha and asked her, what do you see inside the flute? Radha replied, nothing, it's just a hollow. And Krishna's reply was, be the flute. Means unless that self-effacement happens, that just like the flute, we can become hollow. God can never play the flute and bring out music through our life, whether it is through renunciation or through service, or the blending of the both. That has to be done for the self-effacement. And then this wonderful human personality becomes like a flute for which the music comes out, the music of God, of the divine. The Krishna plays the flute. So for that to become the flute is our sadhana. The music is his. Ours is just the self-effacement to become just hollow. As Swami Premananda used to say, some young monk who joined the order and just was having a conversation with Premananda. There's a group of young novices. So one novice told, "Oh, you who are in association with Ramakrishna, all the direct disciples, each of you are so great." Premananda understood that this young one is quite inspired by the greatness of all these direct disciples. So in reply, what Premananda told, you need not have to become something, You need not have to become something that you think we are great, you also have to become great. No, you did not have to become something. You just have to become nothing so that Ramakrishna can work through you. What a wonderful reply. So in this life, that self-effacement is the clue, is the main clue for the spiritual evolution. Whether as a renunciate by renouncing all the so-called the lures of life, or as a family person by trying to reach out. Both way, we are trying to efface our petty self. And once that is done, the wonderful flute is in the mouth of the divine, and the wonderful music comes out through our life. And that's what Swamiji is intending to say by this story, that whether I'm a monk or whether I'm a householder, that's not the point. The point is whether we are leading the life as per the ideal which has been enunciated in both these stages of life. If we are doing that, self-effacement is bound to follow. And then this our life, from our life comes out the music of the divine. So with this, we will stop our discussion today because we have our annual general meeting today. So we will stop our discussion, and just 1 minute. Let me see.